Have you ever watched someone with fewer skills than you get promoted, land the dream job, or build an amazing network, and wondered what their secret was? Well, I'm here to tell you something that might surprise you. The difference between those who merely survive in their careers and those who truly thrive isn't always about being the smartest person in the room or having the most impressive degree on the wall. Today, I want to share with you 50 powerful ideas that can completely transform how you think about your professional life. These aren't complicated theories or business jargon. These are practical human strategies that anyone can use. Starting right now. Section 1. The human side of success. Why being real beats being perfect. Let me start with something that might feel uncomfortable to talk about, but I promise it's important. Have you ever held back from sharing your accomplishments because you were afraid people would think you're bragging? Or maybe you've downplayed your achievements so much that nobody even knows what you're capable of doing. This is what I call the paradox of authentic self-promotion, and it's something almost everyone struggles with at some point in their career. On one hand, you know you need to let people know what you can do, but on the other hand, you don't want to come across as arrogant or full of yourself. The secret isn't to choose between being humble and being visible. The secret is to share your journey, not just your victories. When you talk about what you've learned from your mistakes, when you admit that something was harder than you expected, when you give credit to the people who helped you along the way, something magical happens. You become relatable, and being relatable is far more powerful than being impressive. Now, here's something even more fascinating about how our minds work in professional settings. We all have invisible filters in our brains that affect every decision we make about our careers, and most of us don't even know they're there. These filters are called cognitive biases, and they can completely sabotage your networking efforts without you realizing it. For example, there's something called affinity bias, which is just a fancy way of saying we naturally gravitate toward people who remind us of ourselves. Sounds harmless, right? But this bias can make you miss out on incredible opportunities to learn from people with different backgrounds and perspectives. Or consider the halo effect, where we assume that because someone is good at one thing, they must be good at everything. You meet someone who went to a prestigious school and suddenly you're convinced they're brilliant at everything they do, even before they've proven it. Understanding these biases in yourself and others is like getting a secret map to navigate professional relationships more effectively. And here's where things get really interesting. In today's workplace, there's an invisible currency that many people don't talk about, but everyone uses every single day. It's called emotional labor, and it's the energy you spend managing your own emotions and responding to other people's feelings at work. Think about it for a moment. When you smile at a difficult customer even though you're exhausted, when you stay calm during a tense meeting, when you comfort a stressed coworker, you're spending emotional energy. This isn't weakness, and it's not something to ignore. It's a real skill that has real value, and learning to manage it without burning yourself out is essential for long-term career success. The good news? You can build resilience through what I call micro-recovery, which are tiny moments of rest and reset between your daily tasks. A 2-minute breathing exercise between meetings, a short walk around the block, even just closing your eyes for 30 seconds can recharge your emotional batteries. Section 2. The art of connection. Building relationships that actually matter. Now let's talk about something that most career advice completely gets wrong. Networking. When you hear that word, what comes to mind? Awkward conferences where everyone's passing out business cards like they're playing a card game? Forced small talk with strangers where you're both just waiting for the conversation to end? Yeah, I thought so. But what if I told you that some of the best networking happens in places you'd never expect? Like on an airplane, for instance. I know, you're thinking, but I just want to watch movies and avoid talking to strangers when I fly. But here's the thing. When you're both stuck in adjacent seats for several hours, there's a natural opportunity for real conversation to happen, not the rushed, superficial stuff you get at networking events. The key is to be genuinely curious about the other person's story without any agenda. Don't hand them your business card within 5 minutes. Just have a real conversation, and if there's a connection, it will naturally lead somewhere. And speaking of unexpected places to build your network, let me tell you about the coffee shop proximity effect. It's organic, it's low pressure, and it's far more authentic than trying to network in formal settings. Now here's something that might completely flip your understanding of how to build strong professional relationships. It's called reverse networking, and it's based on a simple truth. People bond more strongly with those they help than with those who help them. Think about that for a second. When you ask someone for advice, you're not being a burden. You're actually giving them a gift because you're showing them that you value their expertise and experience. Most people love being seen as knowledgeable and helpful. So by asking for their guidance, you're creating an opportunity for them to feel good about themselves, and that creates a bond. But here's where it gets even better. Don't just network within your own industry. Some of the most breakthrough ideas and opportunities come from cross-industry pollination. When a teacher learns techniques from a salesperson, when an engineer attends a marketing conference, when a chef studies project management, magic happens. You see patterns and solutions that people trapped in their own industry bubbles completely miss. You become the person who brings fresh perspectives to old problems, and that makes you incredibly valuable. And here's one more networking secret that almost nobody talks about. Volunteer work and charity activities create some of the most authentic professional relationships you'll ever build. Why? Because you're working alongside people toward a shared goal that matters, without any competitive pressure or transactional energy. You see people's true character when they're giving their time freely and they see yours too. These relationships are built on shared values, not just shared industries, and that makes them incredibly strong and lasting. Section 3. Communication that changes everything. The small moves that make you unforgettable. Let me share something with you that took me years to understand. The most powerful thing you can do in a conversation isn't talking. It's the strategic use of silence. I know this sounds counterintuitive, especially if you're worried about awkward silences or keeping conversations flowing. But here's what happens when you pause after asking a question or making a point. First, you give the other person space to actually think and respond thoughtfully instead of just reacting. Second, you signal confidence because only secure people are comfortable with silence. And third, you create natural emphasis that makes your words land with more impact. Try it in your next important conversation. Ask your question, then close your mouth and wait. Count to 3 in your head, if you need to. You'll be amazed at the difference it makes. Now, in our increasingly digital world, there's a whole new language we all need to learn. Digital body language. When you're on a video call, your camera angle, your eye contact with the camera, your background, even how much of your hands are visible, all of these things are communicating messages about you. Are you looking at the camera or at your own image on the screen? Because one shows you're engaged with the other person, and the other shows you're focused on yourself. Is your camera positioned at eye level, or is it looking up at you from below like a villain in a movie? Little details like this shape how people perceive your professionalism and authority without them even realizing why. But perhaps the most valuable communication skill you can develop is the art of graceful disagreement. In every workplace, there will be times when you genuinely disagree with someone's idea, decision, or approach. How you handle these moments can either damage relationships or strengthen them. The secret is to focus on being curious rather than being right. Instead of saying, "I disagree," try saying, "That's interesting. Help me understand your thinking on this." Instead of pointing out flaws, ask questions that gently reveal potential challenges. How would this work if situation X happened? Or what would success look like in this approach? This way, you're contributing to the conversation constructively without making anyone defensive. And often, through this process of genuine inquiry, either you'll discover you were wrong or they'll discover the flaws in their own thinking, and everyone saves face. Now, let's talk about conflict because it's inevitable in any career. But here's something most people don't know. You can de-escalate almost any tense situation in 30 seconds or less if you know what to do. The technique is simple. When someone is upset or aggressive, immediately validate their emotion without necessarily agreeing with their position. "I can see this is really important to you," or "I understand why you'd feel frustrated about this." These simple statements acknowledge their feelings, which is often all people need to start calming down. Then, once emotions have decreased, you can address the actual issue productively. It's not manipulation, it's emotional intelligence. And finally, let me talk about something that can multiply the value of every professional interaction you have. The follow-up. Most people either don't follow up at all or they send generic, "nice to meet you" messages that get instantly forgotten. But if you send a follow-up message that references something specific from your conversation, includes a resource or idea that might help them, or makes a meaningful connection to something they care about, you become memorable. You become the person who actually listens, who adds value, who thinks about others even when they're not in the room. And that's the kind of person everyone wants in their network. Section 4. Mastering your inner game. Turning your weaknesses into strengths. Here's something that might sound strange at first. Your weaknesses can actually become your greatest strengths in your career. I'm not talking about pretending your weaknesses don't exist or spinning them in job interviews. I'm talking about genuine weakness weaponization, where you openly acknowledge a limitation and then build systems or partnerships around it. For example, let's say you're not naturally organized. Instead of hiding this or constantly struggling with it alone, you could openly say, I'm creative and great at generating ideas, but I need support with execution and organization. Suddenly, you're not failing at organization. You're being self-aware and building complementary partnerships. You become known as someone who knows themselves well and knows how to build effective teams. This connects directly to emotional intelligence, which is really just a fancy term for understanding and managing feelings, both your own and other people's. When you can stay calm under pressure, when you can read what's really going on beneath the surface of a conversation, when you can sense that your colleague is struggling even though they haven't said anything, these abilities are incredibly powerful. They make you the person others trust, the person leaders rely on, the person teams want to work with. And unlike technical skills that can become outdated, emotional intelligence only becomes more valuable over time. The foundation of all of this is self-regulation, which is your ability to control your reactions under pressure. When someone criticizes your work unfairly, when a project falls apart, when you don't get the promotion you deserved, how you respond in those moments defines your professional reputation. The good news is that self-regulation is a skill, not a personality trait. You can develop it through practice, through pausing before responding, through recognizing your triggers, and through choosing your responses, rather than just reacting. So let's bring this all together. Career success isn't about being perfect. It's about being authentic and strategic at the same time. It's about building real relationships in unexpected places, communicating with intention and awareness, and developing deep self-knowledge. These 50 concepts we've touched on today, from authentic self-promotion to emotional labor, from airplane networking to strategic pauses, from weakness weaponization to digital body language, they're all pieces of the same larger picture. That picture is you, thriving in your career not by becoming someone you're not, but by becoming the most effective version of who you already are. So here's my question for you. Which one of these ideas resonated with you most? What's the one thing you're going to try this week? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Tell me about your experiences with networking or communication challenges you're facing, or that moment when emotional intelligence made a difference in your career. And if you found this valuable, subscribe to the channel because we're going to dive deeper into many of these concepts in future videos. We'll talk about leadership strategies for introverts, how to pivot your career without losing momentum, and how to build a professional brand that actually reflects who you are. Remember, your career is a long journey, not a single destination. Every conversation, every relationship, every moment of self-awareness is building towards something greater. So keep learning, keep connecting, and keep becoming. I'll see you in the next video.